welcome back to another episode of Movie Bracket Challenge.
This is my recap of The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. This movie came out in 1977 when my oldest brother Charlie was born. I love this movie so much that we even have an ornament in my house representing it. There are 3 parts to this movie. Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. We also have Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger too. I will definitely not be doing these in order because I always forget which order they come in because I love them all so much. So I'm just going to recap the whole movie and not try and break it up for you. Sorry, but that's how I do it. Winnie the Pooh is in love with his honey, and he runs out of honey. So he's off. He's got to get some honey from the tree. And he tries climbing the tree where the honey is with the bees. But wouldn't you know it, as soon as he gets up there, those darn bees won't let Winnie the Pooh steal their honey. And they chase Winnie the Pooh all the way down to the ground. But Winnie the Pooh's not giving up that easily. So he goes to Christopher Robin and asks if he can have a balloon. A red balloon he gets. And Christopher Robin goes, "What are you up to?" And he says, "I'm going to get the honey from the tree." And he's got a plan. He hides himself in the mud, getting all dirty and covering himself up so that those darn bees won't recognize him. And he flies up with the balloon to where the honey is. And he gets a little taste before those bees chase him off. And then they start chasing Christopher Robin too. And they end up having to hide in that same mud pile underneath an umbrella to escape from the breeze. Those bees were really smart. So we also meet Piglet. And Piglet is Pooh's best buddy. But they have a little bit of a rough time in this movie. Pooh is getting ready for bed one night, and he hears a growling noise. And he doesn't know what it is. But when you know it, it's Tigger. And Tigger comes in. Pooh offers him some honey. And Tigger said, "Tiggers don't eat honey." But then Tigger tells him a scary story about another animal that likes to steal the honey, which gives Pooh a bunch of nightmares. And then Pooh decides he's going to gather up all his honey and guard it with his toy gun. But then the rain starts. And then he decides he's a little hungry. He starts to eat some honey and gets his head stuck in a jar. And the water takes him out of the house, out of this place, and he's running in this river. He's safe. I mean, his head's in a pot, but he's safe. He's just sort of guiding through the rain floods. Also, we see Piglet. He's stuck on a chair. And he's just sort of riding through the rains and the flood. The rest of the animals and Christopher Robin have made it safely up to high ground. And they are worried about their Winnie the Pooh and their Piglet too. Piglet and Winnie the Pooh get in a little bit of trouble when there is a waterfall. And as they're going down, they get all mixed up. Pooh ends up on the chair and Piglet ends up in the jar. And the jar ends up under the chair. Now they end up riding right by where Christopher Robin is. Christopher Robin sees Winnie the Pooh. He's excited to see him. He asks Winnie the Pooh, has he seen Piglet? He grabs Winnie the Pooh off the chair, and when you know it, there's the jar, and he found Piglet. And he's so excited that he wants to give Winnie the Pooh a party, a hero's party, that is. And as they're celebrating, Eeyore comes by. And Eeyore has found a new home for Al. And he's very excited to show them all. So then they're off. And Piglet is a little surprised that Eeyore walks right up to his home. Eeyore can't read, and he thinks the sign that is outside Piglet's house says Al, and it says so it's perfect. And they all explain that this is Piglet's home. But Piglet, with the big heart in that little body, says, no, Al can have it. It is perfect for Al. And Christopher Robin asks, but where will you go, Piglet? And the Winnie the Pooh says, with me. So Pooh and Piglet end up living together, and it's so sweet because they're best friends. And the heroes party ends up being a party for both of them. When Tigger and Rabbit are interacting, Rabbit does not like all the bouncing that Tigger does. Oh, Tigger's got his famous song in this movie, so definitely go check that out. We all love Tigger's bouncing song, and that comes from this movie, so definitely go check that out.
The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made of the rubber, their bottoms are made of the springs. They're bouncy, trouncy, flouncy, pouncy, fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is I'm the only one. I'm the only one.
Well, Rabbit gets very annoyed with Tigger's bouncing, and he comes up with a plan to get Tigger to stop bouncing. He's going to bring Tigger to the woods and get Tigger lost. Not for good, that is. He just wants to get him lost and then save him, so hopefully Tigger will be so grateful he'll give up the bouncing. But wouldn't you know it, Rabbit, Winnie the Pooh, and Piglet, they're the ones that end up getting lost, and Tigger is the one who rescues them. So, turns out the Tigger's not so lost, but the rest were. Thank goodness Tigger was the hero that day. But Tigger ends up bouncing with his best buddy, Roy, the little kangaroo. I always mix up his name. And he gets stuck in a tree. And that makes him really sad when he finally gets down, because he decides maybe bouncing's not such a great idea, which makes him a really sad Tigger, which makes everybody else sad, including Rabbit. And they learn that Tiggers need to bounce, and they want Tigger to bounce because they want him to be happy. Because for them all to be happy, they have to care about each other and care about what each other enjoys and loves. So they convince Tigger to love bouncing again, and it's beautiful. So Winnie the Pooh is so cute, and so many of the iconic things from Winnie the Pooh come from this movie. One of my favorites, Al invites Pooh in to get some honey for their lunch, and Pooh eats all of Rabbit's honey and then can't get out the front door, gets stuck, and nobody can get him out, including Christopher Robin, who has to come by. And he says, Pooh's just going to have to wait till he loses some weight from eating all of Rabbit's honey. Might have to wait a few hours, days, weeks, months. They don't know. But in the meantime, Al tries to hang stuff on Pooh's behind, tries to make him a chair rest, a shelf, everything. But when you know it, that Pooh just won't stay still enough to make anything. And eventually, Pooh does budge a little bit. They all combine to get him out, and it's really cute.
Oh, help and bother.
Well, it all comes from eating too much.
It all comes from not having front doors big enough.
If I have to face that thing for months, well, I might as well make the best of it. Oh, no! There it is again! I'll just turn it to the wall. Oh, dear! Uh-huh.
Pooh, Roo has a little surprise for you.
Flowers!
Honeysuckle.
That's not bad. Not bad at all. It's rather good, I think.
Hold it.
Oh, no! No help! Why did I ever invite that bear to lunch?
And then one morning, Rabbit began to wonder if Pooh might be stuck there forever, a miraculous thing happened.
He budged! Hooray! Christopher Robin! Christopher Ribbon! He bidged! He badged! He booged! Today's the day! There he goes!
The movie has so many iconic memories from when we're all kids and stuff we've seen growing up that we've just sort of developed into our culture. So I hope you enjoyed this recap. Definitely go check it out. It is one of Disney's best. Thanks so much. Hi everybody, this is my review of Up, 2009's Pixar Disney movie. The movie starts with us seeing Carl and Ellie when they meet when they're young, and we get to see how they grow up and how they fall in love and how they both love adventure. They fall in love with an old house and they fix it up together. They go through ups and downs. Ellie has a miscarriage, so they never get to have children together, but they get to have picnics, dance, and just enjoy each other. And you see true love in their love story. Sadly, at the beginning of our movie, we lose Ellie. Now, Carl is sad and alone and in the house that they've spent many years together in. And he's very disappointed that he didn't take Ellie on the adventure that they had planned as children, that they had seen, that they were excited about. They had a drawing of it in their living room. He's very sad, and he's about to lose his house. But before he does, he gets a knock on the door from a young Boy Scout. We meet Russell, and Russell needs to earn a badge. He needs to help an elderly person, and he's determined that elderly person is going to be Carl. Carl comes up with a plan for Russell to leave him alone. He's going to send Russell on a wild goose chase to get rid of the young boy. Meanwhile, Carl is supposed to lose his house, but instead of doing so, he comes up with a plan. He is a balloon person by trade. He blows up balloons. We see in the montage that he has with Ellie. And so he blows up many, many balloons. And the morning that he's supposed to be taken from his home, these balloons come from his chimney and everywhere else, and they end up making his house come off the ground and start to fly. He's very excited. He's off to his adventure. The adventure he had planned with Ellie. He's going to bring their house to South America. And he's very excited. He's in a good mood, sitting back in his most comfy chair next to Ellie's chair when he hears a knock on the door. He thinks that can't be anything. He's flying. He's above all the buildings. Who could be knocking at his door? But he goes to the door anyway, and who does he find? Russell. Russell says that he had found the animal. It was underneath his house, but he thinks maybe it was just a rat. But anyway, he's now on this adventure with Carl. Carl is very unhappy about it. He imagined different ways to get Russell out of the house and back to the ground, but all of them would end up hurting Russell, so Russell's got to stay for the adventure. So he almost gets exactly where he wants to be with the house, but he's just a little short. So Russell comes up with the idea that they can walk. They can walk it over to where he wants, because the house is still floating, and they can guide it with their backpacks. Because it's small enough from the ground, they can use the hose, from the wooden hose that is, to tie to them. And Russell can help the elderly and get his badge, and Carl can get the house exactly where him and Ellie had planned. Well, on the way, they meet Kevin. They think Kevin is a boy, but we'll find out later Kevin is not. But we meet Kevin, and Carl is first like trying to shoo him away, and Russell is like, no, Kevin's my friend, and they end up really loving Kevin. Well, at least Russell does. And then we meet Doug, and Doug is a talking dog, which confuses Carl to no end. But it turns out he's a talking dog because he has this very special collar which lets him talk. And Doug joins them. Doug really likes Carl. It's going to be his new master. At least that's what he keeps saying. So as they're on their adventures, the other dogs that we haven't quite met yet call Doug. And they thought they sent Doug on a wild goose chase. But Doug shows them that he has the bird. He says it has the bird captured. Does he? No. But he does beg Kevin to let him capture him. So the other dogs are off to find Doug because they have a tracking device on him. And they're going to bring Doug and their bird back to the master. Instead, they see the old man. And they call Russell the little mailman. Because he is dressed like a mailman, I guess, to them. They bring everybody back to their master. And this does not make Carl happy at first until he meets who the dog's master is. Which the dog's master is Charles Monks, which is a great adventurer that Ellie and Carl used to watch when they were younger. They actually became adventurers because of Charles Monks. And Carl is thrilled that he's gotten to meet him. He's really excited. Charles invites him up on the ship. The dogs have become waiters and everything else. They literally take care of Charles. And they're basically his servants. And so while they're up on the ship, the house is standing right outside. Well, the bird, Kevin, is hiding there. Charles really wants this bird. However, Carl starts to figure out his hero is not so much a hero. And what he wants to do to Kevin. And Carl, even though he's a grumpy old man, he's not a mean grumpy old man. He doesn't want Kevin to be offed and become just a statue in this man's museum. So he doesn't tell Charles that he has the bird right outside on the house. So we find out that Charles is really the villain in our story. He wants to have all the fame, and he doesn't want to share any of the fame, and he's really just a selfish man. And so Carl does figure out a way to get out. He kind of escapes, but the dogs do catch Kevin. And Russell wants to go back and save Kevin, and Doug, who's really stuck there too. But Carl is determined to get his house where he wants it to be because he sees his time is running out. Then we get a really great message from Ellie, because we see Carl sit down with the adventure book that he had with Ellie. In the beginning of this movie, we saw him only go so far into the book and stop because Ellie had wrote the adventures ahead, and Carl didn't think they had any adventures together. But as he turns the page, he sees that Ellie had thought their whole life was an adventure. She put in all their stories in there. And at the end, she leaves Carl a note saying, "Thank you for the adventure. Now go have a new one." And that's exactly what Carl does. He goes to tell Russell they're going to save Kevin. But before he could do so, Russell is off. He's stolen some of the balloons. And looks like an air blower, like to blow leaves. And he's off to rescue his buddy Kevin. Well, Carl is off to save both Kevin and Russ. So he goes, he takes all the furniture out of the house, and he's off. He's going to rescue his friend. The house is flying, and it's flying right back to Charles's big balloon sort of thing that he's flying back because he has Kevin. He's going to go back to the States and show everybody he wasn't crazy. He has the animal he went for. But Russell is going to save his friend, and Carl is off to save them both. And then there's another knock at the door, and it's our friend Doug. Doug has come back to his master, and this time Carl is really happy to see him. Russ reaches the big balloon, he gets inside, and when you know it, those darn dogs, they capture him. And the mean Charles, he puts him in the back of the balloon, and he's going to just toss, basically just let him slide out and go to the ground, which would off him. But just in time, Carl reaches him, saves him. He puts him in the house, says, "No, I'm going to save Kevin. You stay." We see a fight scene. We see a fight scene between Carl and Charles, which is two old men trying to fight each other and getting stiff and hurting themselves as they're trying to fight one another. In the end, Carl does reach Kevin, and they escape through a window and go to the top. And right at the top, they think they're about to get away. He has Doug meet him up there, and Russ has come to the top to rescue them all and get them out of there into the house to fly away. When Charles reaches them with a gun, and he starts popping all the balloons. And Carl has a choice between saving everybody and saving his house, and he chooses to save everybody and let the house go. And unfortunately, Charles does not make it through this scene, and he is gone. But the house lands exactly where Carl had originally planned. Ellie and his home is at the top of the rocks, and it will stay there. And now Russ and Carl have saved Kevin. They bring Kevin back to his home. Kevin has some babies because Kevin is a mommy. And sadly, it's time for Doug, Carl, and Russ to go home. All the other dogs now are good and behaved, and they're going to leave with them. And they're all excited to go back to the States. When we get back to the States, we see Russ finally get his badge. His dad does not show up to give him the badge, however, but Carl does. He actually gives him the best badge of all, an Ellie badge. And Russ understands how special this is, and it means the world to him. He gives Carl a great big hug. Russ's mom is clapping in the audience right next to our buddy Doug. We see all the dogs excited for them. And then we see Carl and Russ have a lot more fun adventures as they have lots of pictures at the end of all the things they do together. It's a really great movie. Definitely go check it out. Don't forget to vote, 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 comment section, and our community page.